Today, we announce continued strong growth in our customer base. We have 21.85 million customers, and this is after we had disconnected around 300,000 customers who had unregistered SIMs in the past 6 months. We've continued to invest heavily in the network, having invested 12.37 billion shillings. That's an uplift of 18% on the previous year. Amongst the things we did was to roll out 1,500 kilometers of fiber, and we have a further 1,650 kilometers ongoing. We continue to drive cashless payments through Lipa na M-Pesa. We've acquired a total of 139,000 merchants so far, of which 32,000 are active. And in addition, we have rolled out a thing called Lockbox, which is a fixed deposit product on M-Shwari, offering slightly higher interest rates for people who are prepared to lock their interest for longer. The result of all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, is that Safaricom continues to be what we perhaps somewhat immodestly call Kenya's most admired brand, having a brand equity of 86% and having a net promoter score of 52%. Our voice service revenue has grown by 6.4% and currently represents 55% of our total revenues, and our non-voice has grown by 27%, which represents a total of 40% of our total revenues. The additional 5% comes from things like handset sales. We've yet again realized significant improvements in our operations across a broad range of key financial metrics. Our total revenue has grown by 15% to 75 billion shillings. Service revenue has grown by 14% to 76 billion shillings. Non-voice revenues, that's SMS, data, M-Pesa, and other service revenues, grew by 27%, driven by more active customers, as well as growing usage amongst those customers. EBITDA has increased by 17% to 34 billion shillings. Net income grew by 31% to 15 billion shillings, and free cash flow has increased by 13% to 16 billion shillings. There is a need for continued significant investment in the remaining part of this year, and therefore, as is the custom, we are not proposing paying out an interim dividend.
EBITDA rose by 16%, driven by a growth in revenue. And this growth in EBITDA drove an increase in net income of 31%, despite an increase in tax by 38%. This strong operating performance resulted in our free cash flow growth growing by 13% to 15.5 billion. Voice revenue grew 6.4%, driven by a 4.9% increase in the customer base. And we continue to improve our airtime distribution, and our scratch cards can now be bought in 270,000 retail outlets. It's also worth noting that 37% of our airtime top-ups came through M-Pesa rather than scratch cards. Uptake of emergency top-ups, Okoa Jahazi, continue to grow and realised a revenue growth of 29%. Non-voice service revenues continue to drive growth with a 27% increase over last year. SMS, M-Pesa and data revenue now represent 40% of total revenue, with SMS growing at 13%, mobile data growing at 53%, fixed services at 22%, and M-Pesa at 25%. M-Pesa represents 49% of our non-voice service revenue.
The hold-up is because between June and September, the whole thing got politicized, right? So we haven't yet, and there's a piece of work which needs to be done in terms of negotiating contracts and things like that. And that piece of work could not have started until the issue got out of the political arena. It has now got out, and then the regular process has started. So, we effectively had a 3 or 4 month delay before things can be ready. But we're nearly ready to sign the contract. That we now have access to the spectrum, the 7.5 megahertz of the 900 spectrum and the 1800 spectrum. We will now, as quickly as we can, deploy. Well, we can't do it just yet because we need to do a little bit of work with Airtel, so Airtel can move their customers, what will now become their customers, off that spectrum. So we expect that by December, we will start to have access to that spectrum. And what that means for customers is that we can improve the quality of service. We can improve the capacity and the coverage. The second thing it means for us is that, and more importantly for the 150 members of staff that we have committed to take from ESSA, is that they now have peace of mind. So they now know that there is an employable future for them. And we are committed to taking them. We will certainly have them all in by the 1st of January, but we expect to start to take them in before then. We focus very much on our strategy and our targets, and we don't focus so much on the competition. I hope you can see that the strategy has worked for us, certainly for the past 18 months, so the full of last year and the half of this year, and we are confident that the strategy will continue to work, and we will continue to focus very much on having the biggest network. Today we have 91% population coverage. That is more than 10 percentage points better than anyone else. We have twice the number of base stations than anyone else. We are going to be rolling out faster than anyone else the fastest network in LTE. We do have today the best drop call rates. We're still not happy with it. We have 4.3% average throughput of Mbps on data, which is faster than anyone else. So these are the reasons why we believe customers will continue to stick with us. And having said all that, I think it's healthy to have a competitive environment. We do welcome the competition. Our priorities in the second half of the year is to continue to grow our content partnerships, and importantly, now that we have the commitment of the 800 megahertz of spectrum, we will be rolling out LTE over the next 12 months in 15 towns and cities across the country.